well.
Ah,
So Mike is has been generous enough to shuffle out and back into the meeting again.
The screen said we're now live streaming again.
I think you should be all good.
Okay, great.
nice job, Matt.
Thank you. I am going to check my email because I started to get some texts already about the live stream being cut out. So I may have to respond to a couple of people to let them know that we're back up and running. Just a moment, please. I'll be right back. Hello, I think we were just down for a few minutes. It was between interviews. The board was actually on a break, so anyone who is watching on the live stream can feel good about knowing that there wasn't anything going on while the live stream cut out, but just to make you aware that our final interview for the evening is in the waiting room. And once all of our board members are back from their break, we will get started again. Thank you. Barbara, can you hear me? We're just about ready to get started again. So if you can hear me and you can rejoin us, that would be terrific. All right, I will admit Travis into the meeting. Here we go. Travis, your side, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll turn this around a little bit.
There you go.
Welcome.
Thank you.
On behalf of the Marquette Elger Regional Education Service Agency, Maresa, we would like to welcome you as a candidate for our leadership position.
Thank you.
My name is Julie Shaw, and I'm the current Maresa Board President. This is my 7th year on the Maresa School Board, and I served 12 years on the local school board at the Gwinn Area Community Schools. And I'm going to ask each board member to introduce themselves to you at this time. We'll start with Shelley.
Hi, Travis. This is Shelley Ovink, and I live in the Nice Community School District. I was on the Nice local board for 12 years a while ago, and I've been on the Maresa board now for since 1997. I almost said 1897. That's really scary.
Nice to meet you, Shelley.
Paula.
Hi, Travis. My name is Paula Sari, and I'm from Marquette. And I was on the local board, the Marquette board, for 8 years. And I've been on the Maresa board since the late 1990s. And I also served on the Michigan Association of School Boards for 20 years.
Okay. Nice to meet you, Paula.
Thank you.
Steve.
Got to get used to this technology, eh? Hi, Travis. My name is Steve Norman. I reside in Chatham, which would be the Superior Central School District. I originally started, I put 3 years on the local board prior to coming on the Marquette Elger board in 1979.
Nice to meet you, Steve.
Barb.
Hi, Travis. I'm Barb Herman from Munising. I was on the Munising board for about 16 years and ultimately went on the Maresa board about 20 years ago. So got a little bit of time there with school boards.
Nice to meet you, Barb.
Thank you.
Jamie.
Hi, Travis. Being a MAPS member, you know who I am. I've been on the MAPS board. I'm vice president there and now I've been there for 4 years. And of course, 1 year on Maresa almost, and going into my 2nd year.
Good to see you again, Jamie. Thank you.
And Lowell.
Hi, Travis. I'm Lowell Larson. I live in Negaunee Township, the Negaunee Public Schools. I've been on the Maresa board for a little under a year. Coincidentally, I was only a year old when Steve started on the board.
Let that be noted for the record. Nice to meet you, Lowell.
Travis, I want to explain a little bit about the format for tonight. The interview may take up to 75 minutes. There'll be approximately 25 questions. Near the end, we will give you an opportunity to ask questions of the board. Questions may be submitted by our audience watching and will be considered for round 2 candidates. Please email questions to our Michigan Leadership Institute consultant, Mike Hill, at lakerdad68@gmail.com. Also, comments may be submitted to that same email address. And an opportunity will be provided for you at the end to have a closing statement as well. I'm going to start with the questions, Travis. While we have had the opportunity to review your experience and credentials, our audience has not. Would you briefly review your background and what causes you to be interested in this position at this point in your career?
Well, President Shaw and board members and community members, thank you for the opportunity. You know, board members, you've had be worth your while. We shall see in the next 75 minutes. But so in terms of my background, I have I think a pretty unique background. I grew up on a farm and I'm a first generation university graduate. I'm married to a Title I teacher and I have 3 school-aged daughters. And I love the outdoors. I want to make sure I talk about that just for a moment too, but because that's a big part of my life. One of my biggest accomplishments of the outdoors is I pedaled my bicycle from ocean to ocean through Marquette. and I love vegetable gardening as well. I think that kind of harkens back to my farming upbringing. And if we're going to be honest here, thanks to the CMU doctoral program, I have a crippling addiction to caffeine, and very specifically coffee. So that's how my days start, and often how they will end. But anyway, so my university studies started in at Grand Valley State University, where I earned a degree in psychology and special education, and 3 endorsements in emotional impairments, cognitive impairments, and elementary education. I also played 2 varsity sports while I was at Grand Valley. And upon graduation, I secured a job at Cedar Springs High School, which is near the Metro Grand Rapids, Michigan area, where I was a high school special education teacher. And I also got married during that time, and subsequently earned a master's degree in learning disabilities. Shortly after that, my wife and I decided to add a little adventure to our lives, and we moved to the country of Latvia in Northeastern Europe, so just a little south of Finland. And after about 2 weeks, my wife had not shaken the jet lag yet, and apparently, or not apparently, most evidently, she was pregnant. And so we had our first daughter in Latvia. And so if you want to hear stories about the Latvian healthcare system, I'd be glad to share those. But international education was an awesome opportunity for us. I was a middle school math and science teacher, and there were over 25 different nationalities represented at the school. So for example, I had a student who was from Korea, and her dad worked for Samsung. And so his area of sales was in the Baltics. And I had another student who was from Sweden, and mom worked for the Swedish embassy. So these parents were very educated and very involved, and we learned a lot about international education. From there, we decided to add even a little more spice into our lives, and we moved to the island of Papua, which is part of Indonesia. And we literally worked at what is called the most remote international school in the world. So we would take a helicopter, and then we'd take the helicopter back down the mountain, go on vacation a little bit, and repeat that cycle. So this whole stay home order, this is like living in Indonesia all over again. So we're used to being quarantined, but another great opportunity to be in international education. Learned a lot, and I was again a middle school math and science teacher. And from there, we decided to return back to the States, and I secured a job at Bothell Middle School, where then Principal Bill Saunders hired me to be a special education teacher. And during that time, Dr. Joe Lubig, he hired me to create the class or create the content and teach the class that's called Legal Issues in Special Education at Northern Michigan University. And it was a very unique time in our lives again. Pretty busy, as we added 2 more kids, and I built our house. I built parents' camp, and I was also I started 2 small businesses in the trades as well. But in the summer of 2014, decided it was time for a change, and I was hired by now Superintendent Bill Saunders to be the principal at Cherry Creek Elementary School in Harvey. That was pretty unique because I was hired without any administrative experience, without any credentials, and he had the trust in me to do the job. And it was a unique time to join that school community as well, as they were reeling from the passing of their principal. So we learned a lot together through that time, and personally, I was also able to earn my ed specialist degree. And I was given the outstanding graduate award for my work in the program as well. Eventually, I earned my doctorate from Central Michigan University, and that takes us to this moment. So the second part of your question, I believe, was why am I interested in this position? So, that's really a great question. And my 2 younger daughters, they go to Cherry Creek. My wife works at Cherry Creek. I've been there for 6 years, and we have an unbelievable community there. I often say we are the best kept secret in Marquette County. And we have great students and staff and great parents. But I think I've reached that point in my career where I'm looking to make an impact that is marked by greater breadth and depth. And I believe that this job offers me that opportunity. And if you look at my patterns of success and my endorsements, I believe that I will be successful in this position.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Based upon your research, tell us about Maresa and what you believe are the most immediate challenges.
So I think we're living in that challenge right now, and that is due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, I bet 3 months ago, when I believe is when you started Zooming, you didn't maybe not even know what Zoom was, and now you're Zooming from the comfort of your living rooms, and you're trying to hire your next leader in this format. So in terms of, there's some pretty incredible challenges due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I think that there's three that jump out at me. And the first one is facing our Risa is social emotional learning. So that's one of my top concerns as a leader. That's something at Cherry Creek School that we've seen coming and we've addressed by securing grant dollars to start a social emotional learning program. And I think as a Risa, they've taken some huge steps to address that need. But my concern when I think of all my students is, and that's well over 400 of them, are the students that they're the ones who are impacted by trauma on a daily basis. And I'm very concerned about what they're going through now and what it's going to be like for them when we get back to whatever normal is and in the fall. So certainly a social emotional learning standpoint. The other one is, again, these are all really due to the pandemic, is a remote learning platform. It seems like right now that we're doing the best we can. And it seems like every time we have an administrative meeting and we make this great plan, the next news conference upsets the apple cart. And so we go back to the drawing board. And right now it seems that our remote learning platform is one that's from the standpoint of, well, it's passive engagement, it's review, it's enrichment. But I don't know if you saw the Detroit Free Press article this morning that talked about what could be the new normal for us in the fall. Imagine to include some sort of online learning platform. And so I see us as a Risa needing to pivot in that direction and make a platform that is much stronger and allows students to engage in the curriculum and meet the standards and work to becoming college and career ready. And lastly, it's just the financial piece, where we're looking at anywhere from $300 to $1,200 in cuts to per pupil funding, and that is significant. And so as a Risa, I think that we're positioned well as an organization, but it's going to be incumbent upon us from a collaborative standpoint to make sure that we're all coming together and we are securing those grants, and we are leveraging our collaborative purchasing power as well, so we can spread those savings across the districts, because we will certainly need that moving forward. So those three areas, SEL, the technology piece, remote learning platform, and lastly, the financial aspect. Those are three top concerns facing the Risa.
Thank you. Now we're going to go to community relations with board member Jamie.
Hey, Travis. I think my mic is on this time. How would you go about establishing and maintaining positive relationships with our regional community? And our regional community is something. I'm sorry, our regional community is 13 districts. So. Yes.
So I think that Maresa does an excellent job with community relations already. So if you look at any mining journal article, or if you look at Upper Michigan Source, or even the Facebook page, there are certainly great stories out there about the programming and the educators and the students. So that's certainly a step in the right direction. In terms of, in your question, Jamie, let me reiterate that was in terms of community engagement.
Positive relationships with our regional communities.
Relations. Got it. Yeah. So, another way with so you've got the positive news stories out there right now. But one small thing would be just one addition to the news stories is simply just a Maresa icon that's found on every local constituent webpage. So students and parents and educators can click on that icon and see the great things that we're doing in Maresa. And same thing at the Northern Michigan School of Education as well. So have that platform available so they can click on it, dig in, and see the great things that Maresa is doing. Another way to build those relationships would be very simply by, show you this, is showing them the vision. So this is something that hopefully everyone received in the mail, but building those relationships, showing them the vision, see how they fit in that vision. And then working with local organizations. So at Cherry Creek, we have a very strong relationship with the Marquette Breakfast Rotary. And we sit down with them, they understand our vision, our needs, they want to help. And so they provide funds to run some of our unique programs. Something else that would be critically important is for me and the other superintendents associate superintendents, is to go to local board meetings. Go there, be on the agenda and share this is what Maresa stands for. This is the value that we provide to you. This is where your dollars are going. This is the programming that you receive. And this is what the numbers look like, and what questions do you have for us as well. So being active, continuing with the good media, giving people access to the organization, but that idea of being a leader from your feet and not from your seat, being visible and getting out there and establishing those relationships are going to be critical.
Okay, could you share with us the ways in which you have accomplished successful communications with the community regarding your current district's challenges or points of pride?
So one thing that I do at Cherry Creek, which I think is pretty important, is very simply getting the media into the building. So if you were to do a quick Google search, you would see all sorts of great programming that happens at Cherry Creek, and some of that is supported by local community organizations, some press coverage on a salmon release, and that is supported by Trout Unlimited and the Fred Wara chapter, and by the Michigan DNR. And so within my purview, it's about showing off the great things that we do at Cherry Creek that could be found through a STEM day, where we bring in the Fish and Wildlife Services and the folks from the weather station, and we bring in the media to share those great things that we're doing as well. So I think that's similar to the related to the points of pride that that can be found at Maresa. Is you have excellent programming. Another way that Maresa supports is very specifically through their educators coming out, and we're able to host family nights based upon the collaboration of Maresa educators and our educators. Like that partnership, and I always make it a point if I have to be interviewed, is to make sure that those partnerships are brought up and the community knows about them.
Okay, if selected, how would you promote the services of Maresa that Maresa offers?
Promote services. So again, that's from that standpoint of building relationships that I talked about before. So again, and I'm quoting for Barb from Munising. This is DJ Paquette, elementary principal there. DJ uses that phrase of being a leader from your feet and not from your seat. So that is to me ultimately how you're going to promote the services of Maresa, is getting out there and building those relationships and letting people see the value that we provide. And because I know that from a financial standpoint, as things are tight and will get tighter, those questions will arise. So meeting with them, meeting with the superintendents one-on-one in their turf is going to be critical. And then, as I shared before, as is with me and the associate superintendents attending those board meetings and say, okay, these are the services that we're providing. This is the value that you get, and it's well worth your dollars for us to be in partnership together.
Okay, thank you. As a regional leader,
You're welcome.
how would you keep local districts working together while respecting individual district agendas?
Yeah, so that's what I think. That's one of the parts that makes this the situation unique, and that's why I feel I would be an excellent fit is that idea of collaboration and getting. Jamie, can you repeat that question one more time?
Yeah, and of course, I'm getting a note here. It says your bandwidth is low. So as a regional leader, how would you keep local districts working together while respecting individual district agendas?
Local leader, I'm just writing your question down. So working together. So that's that point of collaboration that I started to talk about, and in meeting with those superintendents. So one of the first things that I would do in this position is send out a survey, and that survey would be sent to the board. It would be sent to the employees of Maresa. It would be sent to the superintendents and their principals as well. And once we collect that data, then I would actually have meetings with the staff at Maresa, the board, and very specifically the superintendents who are leading those constituent districts. And the questions that would be found on that survey ask, what do we do well as an organization? What are the areas that we need to improve? What is something that you would like me to do? What are the things that you are afraid that I will do? And what other things can you tell me? So this gives them the opportunity to voice their concerns or to voice what they need as a district. So they have their own boards that they answer to, and their own students and educators and community stakeholders. And so I need to become apprised of those things. So then I can speak with you, the Board of Education, and we can move forward together collaboratively using that data that we've pulled right from the mouths of our constituents. So in terms of being a leader and working together and respecting the agendas of the constituent districts, one of the first things is being collaborative and sending out that 5-question survey and following up with face-to-face meetings.
Thanks, Travis.
You're welcome.
Political awareness, Board Member Lowell.
Thank you, Julie. Travis, what do you think is the most important educational policy facing Maresa today, either at the state or the federal level?
Most important policy. That's tough. I think it depends on the level. I mean, you could look at the expectations that the state has and the policies that we need to have in place. I think it comes back to, you could look at 3rd grade reading law and the work that is being done at the Risa level to meet those needs. You could look at the whole school, whole child model as being one of those top policies and top initiatives. But I think, again, it comes back to the need to address students who have experienced trauma. And so that is, incumbent upon us to secure those grant dollars to make sure that we are meeting the needs of our most vulnerable learners. I had a conversation the other day with one of your health educators, and she shared 3 different grants that they were working on collectively to meet the needs of those learners. So one of those grants was to continue the peanut program, and that was for about $190,000. And that's a program where Maresa educators come to the schools and they teach kids nutrition and how to make healthy choices. And the other grants were meeting the specific social, emotional, or mental health needs of students. So I think that policy and those initiatives are the most critical for us moving forward.
And what impact do you feel the Michigan Department of Education is having on school districts in general?
So that's interesting. So it does seem that sometimes it's hard to understand decisions. I understand the top 10 and 10 and the reason that we would want to go in that direction. Just recently with, think back to maybe 4 weeks ago as we were looking to transition to an online platform, and then the latest from the MDE said that at that moment that we couldn't do it. And so that was certainly a point of frustration. But in terms of the MDE, it's generally well thought out. And I think in this position as superintendent, you get the opportunity to interface with those stakeholders in Lansing, and then you can share the needs of the rural Risa and the impact that those decisions have on Lansing, or excuse me, the decisions that Lansing has on their most rural constituents. So I don't think the MDE is formed as they could be, and it would be incumbent upon me to establish those inroads and make sure they understood what we needed here in Marquette and Alger counties.
And what has been one of the most challenging administrative decisions you've had to make, and how did you handle the reaction to this decision?
I think in administration or in leadership, we are certainly in the people business, and we are faced with challenging decisions every day. And I can think, one of the most challenging positions that I've been in recent memory is trying to help out a struggling teacher. And as you know, teachers, they're extremely passionate, and we are thankful for that. And they mean well. But in this particular situation, this teacher needed some help. So started some initial steps in terms of putting them on an individualized development plan, and then meeting with them and performing formal observations, informal observations, working through the Charlotte Danielson framework to improve their teaching. Paired them with a mentor teacher, gave them the opportunity to observe the mentor teacher, and then for the mentor teacher to observe them as well. And then with this particular individual, then I set aside pre-scheduled meeting time. So twice a week during their prep, they were going to come in and meet with me and talk about things what has gone well, what hasn't gone as well this week, and what is something you'd like to work on. Then we'd follow it up in the next meeting. Okay, so this is what you're going to work on, and how did it go? So these are tough conversations because these people are passionate about their jobs, and it's more than just a job. Actually, it's their calling, and so these can be really delicate conversations. But as a leader, it's about establishing relationships with those folks and making sure that you're honoring the contract and you're doing right by them as a human being, and ultimately you make these decisions and you go through this process because that's what the students deserve, and they deserve the best teacher in that classroom. So in terms of some of the most challenging decisions, that process would certainly rank right up there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Leadership attributes, board member Steve.
Travis, I have 3 questions in regards to leadership. The first one is, could you describe your leadership style and talk about situations in which you might have had to vary from that style?
All right. right, so leadership style. Start to write these questions down so I don't forget them. Okay. So leadership style. I would say it would be that of a transformational leader, and as a transformational leader, you work closely with people, and you work in small groups, and you try to recognize those passions that people have, and give them the opportunity to explore those passions and do some great things. But there are times that you have to rein in that passion a little bit, and you explain to them why this may not be the best of ideas at that particular moment. So I try to give, sometimes I look at my leadership style, in addition to being transformational, is I try to give teachers, like, this is what you need to do your job. And it's almost like bumper bowling a little bit, where, okay, these are the parameters. I'm going to give you that guidance for you to do the magic that is your calling. And sometimes I do need to deviate from that and step in and maybe tighten up that space that I've given them a little bit, like in that previous example, where, okay, we're going to rein this in a little bit. We're going to get you the things that you need so that you can be successful, and ultimately your students can be successful. So in terms of my leadership style, certainly transformational and giving people the creative space they need within those parameters, but sometimes you have to tighten that up a little bit.
Okay. What are some of the examples of how you have used data and research to make important decisions in your current position at Bothell? So
data is critical. I mean, we're making data-driven decisions all the time, and sometimes that's in a moment's notice. Sometimes it is much more methodical. So for example, like with any decision, you have a goal, you recognize the issue, you have a goal, and now you're going to lay out the steps to meet that goal. So we had a couple of years ago, I looked at some data, and I was concerned that we were working as a staff way too hard for the results that we were getting. Now our results are fine. They were above state averages, but I thought that we could do better. So what happened from that point was this huge organizational culture change initiative. So we studied the data, we laid out a path, and as we went through this path, we kept collaborating specifically as a building leadership team. And we looked at the data, may have been from assessments, or we looked at the data from anecdotal notes as well. And we used that data to inform our decisions. So we get to the end of that culture change process, which in a way defines the Cherry Creek staff to this day. So using data to make decisions is absolutely critical.
Okay. And excuse me, and a third one that I have for you is, what are the key practices needed to establish a good working relationship with the board, the staff, local districts, parents, and other members, community members within two county region?
You said key practices to establish relationships, is that what you said? I'm sorry.
Yeah, establish relationships, from the board level to staff to local districts, including then parents and general public.
Yes. So I think I've said a couple times. It's that idea of establishing relationships. That's something that I do well. I've been in several schools and several locations, including several continents. And if you look at my patterns of behavior, they all say the same thing, that I've been successful because I've been able to establish relationships with people. And I'll be honest, I've never listened my way into trouble. So when I can listen to people and understand where they're coming from, I can make informed decisions, and we can walk through situations together. So as I shared earlier, that idea of using those 5 questions with the local Maresa staff and the superintendents in our constituent districts, and their principals, those questions are going to be key to establishing those relationships as well. And same thing from a Board of Education standpoint is I would want you as well to take that survey and for us to meet to figure out, okay, where are we at and how can we move forward together?
Thank you.
Instruction and curriculum, Board Member Barb.
Hi, Travis.
Hi.
My first question is, please give us examples of innovative educational change or reform that you initiated that improves success for all students.
Okay. Just writing that down. Okay. Innovative educational change that improves success for all students. So one initiative in particular that I'm really proud of is from a social emotional learning standpoint. So a few years ago, I attended the special education conference held at Northern, and we had a member of law enforcement share how there are these students who are exposed to, or I should say these children that are being born that have been exposed to high rates of trauma. And they are going to present behaviors that as educators and as a system, we're not ready to handle. So as I've been an elementary principal for a while and working in the trenches and interfacing with students and families, we're starting to see that need grow. And I think due to this COVID-19 pandemic, we're going to see this need grow exponentially as parents are stressed and there could be additional trauma in the homes. But in terms of our initiative, I decided to create a special. So when you think of specials, that would be like arts and music and computers. So this special was carved out of the schedule, and it was to meet the social emotional needs of our students. So the special is called Positive Action. And I worked with the Promising Futures Partnership and the GLYCD to secure grant dollars, to provide curriculum for all the teachers in the building, to provide professional development for all the teachers in the building, and to help fund a portion of the FTE of that position as well. And that teacher has continuous ongoing PD as well. So what I figured was, if we're gonna, like, how can you learn to read and write? Your basic needs are not being met. So I thought it was imperative for us to be on the front edge of that and to make that move. And we're starting to see other schools in the Risa go that direction as well. And we're seeing an improvement with our students who are exhibiting a need that we can see, but we're also seeing improvement with our students throughout the school as well, as they're literally using that language that they're learning in class to help navigate some of those sticky situations that they may face during the day. So that's an innovative practice that I thought was a real feather in the cap for my team at Cherry Creek School.
Great, thank you. Please describe your experience in successfully educating students with disabilities.
Okay. So I have quite a long history of working with students with disabilities. As I shared at the onset, I was hired as a high school special education teacher, and then eventually transitioned to Bothell Middle School, where I was a middle school teacher, or excuse me, special education teacher. And that population of student, they have certainly a special place in my heart, and done all sorts of neat programming to give them opportunities. May have been at the high school when I was working with community businesses, and I was able to send my students out into the community and have those on the job experience, learning opportunities, and that was critical for them. And then at the middle school, I had the opportunity to secure grants to give students the opportunity to, with one in particular, give students the opportunity to access the community from a transportation standpoint and help foster a love of reading in their lives as well. And so I've worked tremendously with special needs students. In fact, as another thing I shared at the onset was, having the opportunity to work with pre-service teachers at Northern Michigan University was huge as well, because this is an opportunity for me to give back to the profession. But these pre-service teachers were future special educators, and some of whom I've actually hired. And so they are able to take the things that I shared with them and my passion for students with special needs, and they in turn are able to walk with those students and lead them in the future.
Thank you. Explain your experience leading general education and career and technical educational programs.
Okay. Yeah, so my experience in general education, it was found in the international capacity. So working with math and science students in 2 different countries. And that was working with 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And as I said before, that was a very unique opportunity, as when I was in Indonesia, I had the opportunity to work with a master teacher as well, and did a lot of team teaching. And we were able to bring our classes together and work collaboratively and help those students grow. And that was a really exciting opportunity. From a CTE and technology standpoint, as a teacher, it was at Bothell Middle School, I would certainly look for those opportunities when I was working with my special needs math students. And we would take 2 days a week, and then we would go to the wood shop, and we'd work with Mr. Burton in the wood shop, give them the opportunity to take their math skills and give it a real world application. And CTE and in the middle college in particular are areas that Maresa can really hang its hat on, may it be from the business and information technologies classes that are found throughout the high schools, or with the cybersecurity program, which is a real feather in the cap for both Northern and Maresa. So great opportunities exist, and there are great opportunities for Maresa as well to grow that program. And that would be found through one example would be through a patterns maker certificate. So if you look more UPY, particularly to the West End, the idea is for students to have the opportunity to learn how to use CAD and CNC to have a career in a foundry making situation. Or if you look at the MSU North Farm, a great CTE and career, a great CTE and middle college opportunity exists there, where you can grow that apprenticeship program. And lastly, from the standpoint of meeting or securing our future educators, we could look at a teacher cadet program, and we can grab those kids at an early age and train them to be our next aides and our next substitutes, and eventually the next students that we hire. So I think that this position as superintendent lends itself to that visionary thinking to grow upon the great things that are happening from a CTE and a middle college standpoint.
Great. Thank you.
Finances and Operations, Board Member Paula.
Hi, Travis.
Hi.
Describe for me your experience with budget management, financial management, bonds, sinking funds, millages at a local, regional level.
Okay, budgets, bonds, sinking funds. Okay. So a couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to be involved with the MAPS bond proposal. And I was asked to be a part of that team and work with Superintendent Saunders and some board members and community members. Some were parents and some were not. And that was a very unique opportunity as we passed a $6.2 million, or helped to pass a $6.2 million bond. And that was actually a lot of fun to sit in those meetings and talk about what are the things that we need, and what are ways that we can frankly help capture votes. What are some of the things that need to be out there that are necessary, and our constituents and MAPS would be interested. From that opportunity, MAPS gained improvements to Shire's Planetarium. From an ADA standpoint, we had several buildings that received additional classrooms. Jay Creek was one of them. New football field, the Kaufman Auditorium received some new dressing rooms as well. So, and some track and field improvements as well. So, you know, that was a very unique opportunity and one that I really enjoyed. But it was collaboration and listening to the voice of the community, and because of that, our enrollment has stayed strong, and I think that was a huge step in the right direction. From a budget standpoint, you know, I certainly am in charge of the budget for my building. With, you know, I have well over 400 students and nearly 50 staff members. So being in charge of that budget is no short order. And of course, I'm as a lead principal for the 5th grade camp experience, which is 240 students and approximately 40 adults. I'm in charge of that budget as well. So as a Maresa superintendent, I know one of the first things I would do would be to start to bend the ear of Tony Bertucci and create a strong planning team. And so work with the board member and work with Tony and find another Maresa educator and a local superintendent and a community member to make sure that we have those various voices represented, and so that we can create a budget that meets the need. Varying experiences in the budget and bond standpoint.
In tough financial times, how would you set priorities when there are such competing interests in our local and regional areas?
All right, so tough financial times and competing interests. So actually that harkens back to the financial strategic planning team comment, and that would be absolutely critical. So we know, I mean, if you read the news, we're looking at as a state, we're looking at a $1 to $4 billion shortfall over the next couple of years in terms of those state revenues. And as I shared before, that's $300 to $1,200 in per pupil funding cuts. So dollars are going to be scarce, and so we are facing those tough financial times. And as a Risa, one thing that we can certainly hang our hat on is our strong grant writing abilities. So I want to make sure that we are doing our best to secure those grant dollars so we can make sure that students continue to receive the services that they need, and that institutions can continue to, our local constituent districts rather, can keep their doors open, because that's a concern of mine moving forward as well. So, but using that strategic team that's representative of community stakeholders and our local superintendents is going to be critical for us to move through what will certainly be some interesting financial times.
Mm-hmm. Yes. What ideas might you explore to increase revenue and resources for the Maresa?
Revenue and resources. Okay. Well, again, it's the importance of grant writing that is going to be paramount. And I shared earlier on that, as I was talking about your health educators, they're working to secure some pretty significant funds to power the programs that our students have come accustomed to. You know, other ways that are going to be critical is through that collaborative standpoint. So I think as a Risa, we have real opportunity to leverage those relationships that we have and to come together and look at some pretty key areas. So one would be in looking at simply purchasing diesel fuel in bulk. Now, I know that the districts have different contract lengths, but if we can come together and we can set that vision out there about cost savings, and we can purchase diesel fuel in bulk, and we can spread that savings around across the Risa and make sure that people have the fuel to run their buses at a discount, would be one area to look at. Another one would be in the area of technology. That is importance for our students to be learning at home. So we need to look at collectively pulling our resources, see if we can buy devices, one-to-one devices at a discount? And can we provide internet connectivity for all of our students as well? I think that's going to be critical for us to look at immediately as we move into the fall. I think that is going to be the new reality for us. And something that is kind of interesting as well that I learned with talking with some folks is that computer servers like Maps, they use Northern to host their computer services, but Westwood uses Compudyne in Iron Mountain. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So why couldn't we look at exploring the idea of having a single organization to host those servers as a way to find some cost savings as well. And lastly, in terms of curriculum, Maresa is certainly the curriculum experts, and the very short of it is if we can look at purchasing curriculum that would be common throughout our local constituent districts, then we can look to purchase that at a steep discount as well. So I think there's some creative ideas out there that it's going to take just sheer collaboration to work through those together.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And the last set of questions are going to be about staff and personnel and from board member Shelley.
Okay.
Hi, Travis. Please describe your most successful experience in building a peak performing work team.
Most successful experience, peak performing team. So earlier in the interview, I talked about or alluded to this opportunity that we had as a building leadership team to lay out a plan for success. So this plan is I refer to it as the Houghton Portage plan. And when I talk about the HP plan, everyone knows what I mean. And that was this very methodical process in which we knew we needed to undergo this organizational culture change. And what we found was we went to Houghton Portage School and we observed. And then we debriefed, and then we observed, and we talked with their principal and their school psychologist and their counselor, and we debriefed and we observed, and then we drove home together all in the same car, and we talked for the next 2 hours. And what we found was two things were critical. And what was good was they weren't doing anything much differently than we were doing from a content or pedagogical standpoint. But one thing that we noticed was they were very attentive to common language, and they had common signage throughout the school. And so those positive behavior-wide expectations were found throughout, and that we knew that was something that we needed to have at Cherry Creek School. And also we felt that as a staff that we could improve our relationships with each other and our relationships with students as well, and being very intentional about that. So those were two very basic things that we could do, but this took several months to go through this process. And then through the summer, we created the signage, and we created the opportunities for staff to build relationships. And so when we hit the fall, then we could hit the ground running. And really, I thought that really did turn us into a most successful performing team.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
How would you hold all the staff and Maresa departments accountable for results?
Staff and department accountability. I think it depends on the situation, if it's or the position. So with staff, it could be from an evaluation standpoint, and it could be those year-end evaluations. And what I find with the evaluations, it's more than just the tool, and it's more than the words on those. It's all about the observing and the interacting and the conversations and the goal setting and the mentoring that happens along the way. So you're answering questions, and you're there for people, and you're visible, and as they go along, then you're making those fine-tuned adjustments. That is where I think the true learning, the true accountability happens. May it be with the actual sit down meeting where we're talking about how the year went and we're using that evaluation tool. Like I have different tools for my secretaries and my custodians and my food service workers and my teachers. But that tool is kind of helps drive the conversation, but quite honestly, that conversation has happened over the course of the entire school year. And they know what I expect, and they know that their needs will be met. So from an accountability standpoint, yeah, it happens with the tool through an evaluation process, but it really happens from that being visible and being there to answer their questions and provide guidance. I think that's where the real accountability happens.
Thank you. What has been your experience with collective bargaining?
So within my purview as an elementary principal, my collective bargaining experiences have been quite limited. But quite honestly, I think that is an advantage in many ways moving into this position, because what I bring is I don't have any preconceived notions on how that's going to go, and I am very willing to reach out to those people that have gone through collective bargaining situations, asking for tips and willing to work through things, in a process and very methodically, and making sure that we're paying attention to the budget and you understand the perspective that people are bringing. So as a principal, that's certainly been limited. Of course, I deal with the implications of collective bargaining through contracts and unions, but again, certainly not to me a disadvantage because of my ability to build relationships and to lean on other people and to make sure that we can work through that process that honors all parties.
Thank you. One more question.
Okay.
As a regional leader, explain examples of how you would be visible throughout the Maresa.
Yeah, so that was something I did allude to a little bit earlier, was that idea of communication, establishing those relationships that's about being visible. So I talked about meeting with the local organizations. I'm sorry, I'm using my iPhone and I had a phone call. I had to decline it. So my friend in Utah. So, but anyways, being visible and going out to meeting with the local organizations and going to the local constituent district board meetings. I think that is what a huge olive branch that really is. Like it is worth it for me as your superintendent to come and to speak at your meeting and to talk about the value that we provide for you. And this is where your dollars are going. And then let me listen to you and what are your concerns and what can we do to possibly address those concerns. So your feet and not from your seat. I mean, anyone can shoot out emails, but I think that's one of the strengths that I have as a leader is I'm up. I think about my own day-to-day experiences. And two most important things I do is, number one is I greet all the kids at the door and I give them a high five, and I know them all by name. I know most of the parents by name. And the second most important thing that I do is I'm in every classroom every single day. And at first, when I started at Cherry Creek, I think the first 2 weeks, the teachers thought it was kind of weird because they wondered if I was trying to catch them do something, but they realized that no, this is about me interfacing with the students. And I also get the opportunity now to talk with you. So if you have a need, I can quickly address it, maybe at that moment, or I can work with you later in the day when I find that solution. But I'm able to greet the kids and see what's going on. And so for me, it's all about being visible. I mean, that's what I do. That's one of my patterns of behavior. That's really important to my day-to-day job. And so as your superintendent, you would find me driving to local school districts, meeting with superintendents, and making sure that we're establishing those positive relationships.
Thank
All right,
you.
great job, everybody. President Shaw, this is Mike Hill. I just want everyone to know you nailed it again in management. And Travis, great you as well. We've got about 15 minutes left for candidate questions as well as closing statement to wrap up. So we're in very good shape time-wise. Congratulations.
So thank you for your responses, Travis. And at this time, do you have any questions for the Maresa Board of Education?
I do. So, and not every, don't feel like everyone has to answer this question. If you feel compelled, then please speak. But my first question is, if hired for this position, what does success look like in your eyes?
Great question. Does anybody want to take that question for Travis?
I would say, Travis, that's a multi-level question, because I think success to me is that this individual is a very strong leader for the organization and can look at the organization with fresh eyes and see what we need to improve and the directions we need to go in. I think the next level is innovative. Like you said, it is that we have to be successful in what education is going to look like, because it's different and it's going to be different. And it's going to take a visionary and a very courageous and a very strong person to change. You know, education doesn't change quickly as an institution. That's always astounded me, but it just doesn't. And so to take us to this new place, our superintendent, I think, is going to need to be a huge leader in that.
Okay, thank you.
I would say also, Travis, to be able to, learn as much as possible about the district and getting Maresa on the map, keep Maresa on the map and out there as far as exposure, and being a good leader.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you, Jamie.
I think one of the measures of success is seeing our students all getting their needs met and learning. And then also remembering that our students aren't just the birth through age 26, but many of our students are also the educators and the administrators in our local districts.
Absolutely.
I think success looks like something that's very fragile. I think a common mistake of a leader is coming out of the gate real strong and maybe developing that quote unquote success, and then throttling back and getting in the comfort zone. So I would say success is something that's very fragile.
Thank you all.
I have another question for us, Travis.
Yeah. What do you see as a challenge for Maresa in the next 6 to 12 months? It could be multiple challenges, I guess.
I would say it's definitely going to be how to educate the kids through this virus situation. It's very challenging. Things have already changed. Whether or not we're going to be getting on board as in a normal situation in the fall, or whether we're going to still be continuing where we are. Things are going to change, as Paula pointed out. There's no question, but I think it's important that the kids are the focus, and this has been said before.
Absolutely.
No, one of my concerns, Travis, and I've been thinking about this because you nailed it. There's going to be huge financial cuts. It's
going to be painful,
and it's going to put our districts in. I mean, I don't even want my mind to go there, because it's going to be so. It's painful. It's painful to think that kids could possibly not get what they need, and the fact that that's going to happen, I think, is going to unless we're very, not aggressive, but maybe assertive and innovative, I think it's going to stress the local district's relationship with us. I mean, we already are sometimes perceived as what we have this big fat budget that we don't share with the locals. And I think that that's out there. And I think that is going to become more stressed. And I think we're going to have to work very, very hard and very fast to help our districts the best we can, like you said, with grants and collaborations with businesses and any way we can to help get dollars.
Yeah, to your point, Paul, I think people tend to get pretty insular in looking inward in times of crisis, maybe as a nation, or as you said, with our locals. Like they're immediately going to want to hang on to everything that they have because they themselves are in crisis, and it's certainly going to be critical for us to make sure that we are establishing those relationships with them moving forward.
Travis, Paula beat me to it on the funding. It's not only dealing with getting schools started up again, but funding is going to be an issue state and federal wise. And it's going to involve being able to have all 13 districts work as a team instead of individually looking. I mean, it's inherent to look at your own district, but
of course
we have to be able to look at what's going to be best throughout Maresa.
Yeah, I think if we can capture their voices and lay out that vision, you can lay out the vision for 5 years in advance, and then work backwards from there and talk about, okay, this is from a financial standpoint, this is what we can do, and this is how we can maneuver some of these constraints if we move in lockstep. So those opportunities exist, absolutely.
Well, thank you for those great questions. And at this time, I would like to remind audience members that questions for second round interviews or comments may be sent to MLI Regional President Mike Hill at lakerdad68@gmail.com. And we have a few minutes left. Is there anything you would like to add as a closing statement, Travis?
Yeah, I would. Thank you. So once again, thank you for the opportunity, Board of Education, to speak with you tonight. You've had a grueling past 2 days, but when it comes to my final statement and my candidacy, I think that you'll find that I have probably the most unique background, as I've been a general educator and a special educator. I've worked in the Metro Grand Rapids area, here locally, in 2 countries abroad. I've experienced in the elementary school, the middle school, the high school, and in college as well. And I think that's something very unique to my candidacy. I'm both a practitioner and a researcher, and I live by this phrase that I use old school wisdom and new school technologies to continue to be an agent for change while I'm balancing myriad interconnected priorities. And of your candidates, I'm the only one who's in the trenches on a daily basis, and I see the need firsthand, and I see how our students are impacted and their families and our teachers, and I think that's something very, very unique that I bring as well. And if you look at my endorsements, you'll find common themes that run throughout those, and those themes speak to my pattern of behavior, which indicates that I will be successful in this position. And lastly, my wife and I, we've had the opportunity to travel and to live abroad, and we've chosen very intentionally to live here in Marquette, and we're going to raise our family here. And I have a lot left to give in my career. I'm going to be here a long time, and as a family, we're not going anywhere. So if given the opportunity to become your superintendent, I would embrace that opportunity. I look forward to working with you as a Board of Education as we navigate these uncertain times together as we look to grow our Risa. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your interest in our leadership position. And if needed, we expect to conduct second round interviews in May. This may be discussed and based on the current shelter in place executive order. And Mike Hill of MLI will contact all first round candidates on Thursday, April 30th. And on behalf of our proud region, thank you for being here tonight.
Okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks,
Take care.
Travis.
Thank you.
Travis.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay, board, congratulations. Now, we can either we are still in open session, obviously. Any deliberations or discussions need to be in open session. Any action items or decisions have to be in open session. It is the board's prerogative, your choice, as to whether you want to engage in some consensus building discussions, or if you'd like to schedule another meeting and come back after you've had some time to process everything. We've had boards do it either way. Some prefer to do it while it's fresh. Some like to say, hey, I'd like to take a day or two to think about this some more. But all of that has to be done in open session. If we decide to do it tonight, what I will do is lead that discussion, and we will go through the 6 candidates, and I'll ask for positive comments on each candidate. All board members do not have to participate in that, but if you have some positive candidates for the first interview person, Melanie Allen yesterday, and then we'll just go through the 6. Then you have a chance to listen to board members discuss their reflections. Then, if you'd like to move forward, we could do a scoring matrix where you would tier them. 1 is a definite match for you. You would really like to see that candidate that you would score tier 1 move forward. A tier 2 score would be you're really not sure yet. And a tier 3, you don't see the fit right now. That's the hard work in this process. And that would be just basically to try and get a filter in terms of what the board collectively is thinking with each of their votes that you could even have. So you have the positive comments, and then you have that matrix scoring, and you can sort of see where the board might be falling, and that could be a consideration for a motion with support and more discussion on the 2 or 3 candidates that you'd like to bring back for your final interview. So, or your next interview. And then we'd have to set that date and work through that. So,
Okay.
So I'd like to hear from you as a board how you're feeling this evening, if you are ready to have that discussion, or if you'd like to hold a special meeting. Monica had suggested at one point maybe Friday. I know Mike has meetings tomorrow evening. So can I hear from you and see what your interests are?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Why don't you just initially, Julie, why don't we just say continue tonight or a next meeting without elaborating?
Okay, why don't I do a roll call on that then?
Okay.
We'll start with you, Steve.
Tonight?
Paula?
Continue tonight.
Kelly?
I'd go tonight.
Barb?
Tonight is okay.
Jamie?
I'm okay with tonight. I would prefer to do it on another night, only because I was able to do more research on the candidates today, and I won't have that same opportunity for the ones we did tonight. So,
Lowell?
Press on tonight.
Okay, and myself, I was thinking I'd want to wait too, just because we have 6 amazing candidates. And I just wanted to give the thoughts that I gave to the first set, like Jamie, to the second set. But I do have mine rated already, so I could be ready. I just wanted to make sure that I was in the right frame of mind to do this, not, anyways, it looks like tonight it is. So
could I
Mike,
start?
do you want to lead that discussion?
Would you like, I'd be happy to. Would the board like to take a break or just push forward?
It's already getting late.
Okay, let's push
Aye.
forward. All right, so what I'd like to do is just go through and go through each of the 6 candidates and board members. Once again, you all don't have to make comments, but try to keep your comments as positive as possible, because I will give feedback to all the candidates for their professional growth. And they'll want to know, okay, what did they say if they're not watching? But how did it go? What can I do to improve? Or if I'm going to the second round, give me some coaching on what I could do differently. So let's
Just froze up.
think right
I'm back.
now, Melanie Allen was our first candidate. I'm looking for positive reflections on Melanie and her interview yesterday.
My comment would be that as I watched her interview this morning, that she tied a lot of her comments and back to Maresa itself and the functioning of the Maresa and the growth of Maresa.
Very good.
Mhm.
And that sometimes is common with the internal candidate. They know your culture, and that's a very positive comment, Steve. Any other comments on?
She has a wide breadth of experience across lots of areas, which I think when I look at our mission and vision statements, she's already there in a lot of those places. She's already been there. She understands our Risa already, so that she would be able to start, running right away, and not have to do a lot of learning before she could really step into that role.
Are we making comments, any comments that we feel necessary, or are we just making positive comments, or are we going to make constructive comments, or? I guess I'm curious.
If that's always a hard question, Jamie, but if you're going to offer constructive comments, try to keep them positive, but keep them professional. So
I will.
It's your board discussion, and to be very, very fair professionals. But yeah, general comments are okay.
Okay, I had, listening to Melanie, she was very comfortable for the interview. And I found that a lot of the questions that she answered, she definitely fell back on the experiences in inland lakes, which I without necessarily saying what they were, but I'm guessing that she had some experience there. She's been with Maresa a year, so her experience with ISD is that long. As far as her experience as a superintendent, she doesn't have that yet, but I don't necessarily see that as a deterrent. So that's what I thought of. I thought she was comfortable during her interview.
I felt she was very authentic and confident. She was very knowledgeable about our Risa. I felt that was a very plus in her favor. And I feel like she's really a go-getter. I feel like she loves her work, is very passionate about her work, and a very hard worker.
Okay, any other comments before we move on to the next candidate? That's just about the right volume, so that was good.
A common
Lowell?
theme in her responses was a collaboration, and that's a huge one from Risa.
Right. It's very obvious. That's the way she works, and she would proceed to do the same.
And I definitely got the impression from her that she's very authentic. In other words, trustworthy, which is important. That relationship is important with us superintendents, that's for sure, that they trust what our superintendent says and is doing.
Excellent. Okay, let's move on to the second candidate last night, Dr. J. Burgas. Positive comments, please.
Okay, I guess I could go on that. It was interesting is I thought he was pretty straightforward. I thought he was, of course, because of his background and being a superintendent, he had a lot of hands-on experience, and he was able to share well with all of the questions. The question specifically that that people have tripped over, he shared that with his decision that caused him some problems. And it was one of my phone calls today because I was curious about what has happened, because the media does tend to make things do. So what I randomly did was I went on the website and picked out some teachers' names, and I finally landed on a teacher in Gladstone that would actually answer the phone, and just asked him about relationship and what had happened. And I also did that with a board member, and both of them basically stated that his what he told us last night was actually the truth. He ended up taking it on the chin. What the decision that was made was done by several individuals, including the board president and the administration team had decided to do this because downstate they were starting this as a pilot program. The idea was to instead of asking kids if they wanted to join CTE, is to put all the kids in that question and they would be able to opt out. And that was the pilot program supposedly that ended up downstate. And then the MDE stepped in later on and said, no, we can't do that. And so that's when things went bad. And at that point, he had gone to, and this is not from him. He did say that he took responsibility, but he went to the board and the administration and the staff before it ever hit the media, because MDE had contacted him, and he told them what was going to happen. And he said, I'm going to take this. This is my responsibility. This is on me, and I don't expect anything. They all wanted to step in and be part of it. And he said, absolutely not. This is my, this is mine to take, and whatever comes is going to come. So I just wanted to put that out there only because I know that that's been an issue in everybody's thoughts. I mean, initially I gave the guy a 2 in the last round of our scoring, but it definitely, I was impressed with his interview because of how many answers he gave straightforward, and his passion for the kids. And that was one of the other thing that the board member and the teacher said was his passion for the kids is unsurpassed. So I just wanted everybody to know that, because I know there's been some trepidation about that. And I think that, he answered it pretty well. And I thought, well, that's easy to say in an interview, especially if you're going to try and make it sound better than it was. But it wasn't better. I mean, he did say it was awful, and it was, and they said it was awful. So I just wanted to put that forward, that's, I think he gave a good interview, and I think his passion is genuine.
I appreciate what you're saying to me, and I also really appreciated the fact that he talked about that, and it wasn't in 2005. This was a long time ago. And the fact that he talks about the fact, I mean, everybody makes mistakes. I mean, there's not, we've all made mistakes. So that was not an issue for me. The fact that he is able to talk about it and talk about what he's learned from it, I think speaks to a lot of courage and a lot of integrity. I thought he interviewed very strongly. I think he has really, really strong people skills. I mean, that came across very clearly that this guy's got a lot of experience and he's got really strong people skills. And the fact that he might like to move fast sometimes, I actually kind of like that, because I think we're going to need to move fast in the fall. We're going to have to move fast to meet the needs of our locals. And I definitely got the impression that he is collaborative, that he's going to listen to people, and he's going to chart a course. And I like that.
Yeah, and just to follow up too, both of those people, this is on Shelley, what Shelley had said about the last superintendent that they went down to actually find out about. They actually traveled down to Alpena. As I asked, they both said they would not be happy if he got the position because they don't want to lose him.
Okay. Any other comments on Dr. Kaul Burgas?
Yeah, I would make some comments on him. I found him very knowledgeable, with a real broad brush. Just as I look at the notes that I took on him, I've got stuff all over the place. But what really kind of capped it off is one of the very first statements he made when he started his interview, and he said, "I like kids." And for some reason that just resonated through everything he said. You could tell that he had a passion for teaching. He has a passion for public education, and certainly cares about the students. And so I found that wonderful. And I would agree with a lot of what the other board members have already said about him. He's authentic. I also like that he seems that he can think fast on his feet. And I think that can be beneficial, but he doesn't seem, I'd say that fast on the feet is not an impulsive type of behavior. I'm sure that he would then collaborate and use the other people around him when it comes to actually doing something or making a decision. But he does seem like a person who thinks outside the box a bit. And I think that's one of the things that we need right now.
I agree, Shelley. I really felt he was a people person, and his communication and trust building was pretty amazing. But I loved what he talked about the soft skills program for students, because many of our students do not get that kind of teaching. And just the fact that he picked that out as well, he's very student oriented.
Thank you, Julie. I said this, I wrote down the same thing. That really impressed me.
I like the fact that he's plugged in politically at the state level. I think often we talk about looking at representing our 13 districts, but you got to remember, we also have to have a superintendent that's an advocate for our whole place, for our whole district in Lansing. So being plugged in politically, having that political experience, I think is going to be a necessary skill for our next superintendent.
The other thing he said that I wrote down that I really liked is he talked about sense making. Sometimes your decisions just have to be sense making. And I thought, boy, that's absolutely right. It just makes sense.
Okay, any other thoughts?
Oh, I agree. I think I was late in asking my next question because I was writing down sense making, because I had never heard that before. I thought that was really awesome.
Okay, very good, very good. The next candidate last night was Rachel Fewer, and so I'll entertain some positive inputs on Rachel.
I thought Rachel did a nice job on her interview. She has 13 years or better, 16 years of experience at the ISD, which gave her definitely a lot of knowledge of how an ISD works. And the Eastern UP ISD is one of the best in the UP. But we, you know, our current financial officer used to be part of that region and said that their ISD is amazing. So I thought she answered questions well. She doesn't have superintendent experience, but I thought she did a nice job.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Jamie. I think she did too. I guess for me, I lean towards someone that's had superintendent experience. I just think that that's important with our local superintendents. I just think that's important, and it gives a depth of experience that you only get when you are a superintendent.
I agree with that too.
I like that she had a lot of experience in the mental health field with students, with the crisis team and things that she talked about. But I also like that she talked about when hiring, wait for that right person. I thought that was really smart.
I think she did an excellent job in her interview. Seems to be within her expertise, well-rounded. I'm sure she's able to learn and take on new responsibilities. The fact of being at the Eastern UPISD is she'd be very familiar with small districts and a lot of geography to cover.
That's right.
I like the fact that she didn't have any grievances in her department over many, many years. That's a that's a success right there.
Let's see.
Okay, excellent. Anything else? Now we'll move to tonight. And Johnny Tatum, thoughts on Johnny?
Oh,
I thought she was extremely bright and extremely articulate.
I agree with that.
I really, she's so articulate. I just really, I had to really kind of really focus because her conversations were just so intriguing to me. Again though, I think she is probably very talented. I know she comes across that way as to what she does, but to me, it's the depth of experience. I think we have other candidates that have a deeper depth of experience that we need.
I would echo that.
Okay. Understandable. If you go back to the profile, I think you had preferred 3 years of central office experience preferred. But
Some of the real positives I feel she offered were when she established a climate. She talks about all children as our children, the commitment to work together to maximize and make responsibilities for all children. And I really, really appreciated that. She has an eye towards equity.
good one. Yep. Okay, any other thoughts on Johnny before we move to Dr. Gregory Neon?
I thought he did a good job. He certainly has the superintendent experience. He threw in something that I didn't really see coming. As he said, I've only been in Michigan for a year, so he had that. I never thought of it from that standpoint, and it seemed that that was a part of his learning curve that was unique to him. So, but I thought, again, he's had superintendent experience. He's experienced all the levels that all the districts do, and he has been part of our superintendent group in our district. So he has a lot of knowledge with the other superintendents, and I think that's good.
I don't know if am I frozen still?
No,
Okay. I felt Greg did an excellent job on his interview. The fact that he's only been here a year and just the fact of, you know, basically he came in and was thrown into the fire. Whole deal with funding. You can't sit back. You've got to work at it, go at it. And from my understanding, what is there, 4 districts or 5 districts on the eastern end that get that special allocation, them and Pickford and Mackinac Island. I forget if there's a third
Paradise.
one. But definitely had to hit the bricks, and it sounds like he did, advocating for not only his district, but those other small districts with the legislature, Sarah Kamenzi and then McBroom. Not only that, but then making his presence, should I say, known at the State Department and advocating for the kids. Has a good background with being a school psychologist, has had experience as a superintendent and administrator. So I felt
oh, he locked up.
Go ahead, Barb, if you wanted to.
Well, I don't want to say he's a shaker and a mover, but it's pretty obvious that he isn't content to, the norm isn't where he wants to be. He wants to be better than that. And I think that's good. You can't stand still. You have to keep moving, and he wants to move.
Yeah, I really liked him. I thought he interviewed well. He seems, I mean, I like the fact that he said his leadership is based on a servant leadership model and a transitional leadership model. And I also like the fact that he was talking about taking us to the top 5 of 5.
That's where I'm going.
And I thought I like that vision. He's got a vision.
Mm-hmm. And he said we should be the destination ISD. I loved that. So yeah, he did a great job.
I thought he interviewed very well also. And I agree that he, although I don't know that I'd say mover shaker, at one point I wanted to nominate him to be like our next senator or congressman, because I felt like he really had the politics down. And I want him to go to Lansing and maybe even beyond and fight for us, because I think he's got some really strong advocacy skills. But the other side of that is that he has a very soft, kind of calm manner that I think he could kind of sneak some things in there and have people agree and vote on it before they realized what they were doing.
Okay. Excellent comments, everyone. Try to entertain positive comments on Dr.
But I thought, wow. I mean, I was just really impressed with him. I thought, oh my goodness, he's so innovative and so out of the box thinker, and the things that he's done at that elementary school. And I know because I have friends that have grandchildren at Cherry Creek, and he's done some amazing things out there. He's just so innovative. But I thought to myself, you know, when I first thought about it, and I've never met him, I thought, oh, just an elementary school principal, you know, quote unquote. That's just not going to work. He just doesn't have the depth. But boy, if I was going to take a chance on someone that doesn't have a superintendent or central office experience, he'd be the one.
I think he has just a tremendous personality, and I found when he spoke, I was, even though we're on this platform, I seemed engaged with him, and I think that was an important aspect was every time we asked a question, he he wrote it down. He made sure he understood the question and he answered the question. I noticed in a lot of the other interviews, the question was never answered. It kind of started off and went down a rabbit hole here or there. But he was if he went on a little bit of a tangent, he brought himself back. And I think that maybe is a test to his personality. He must be a real good thinker before he acts, and to make sure. And I thought the idea of bringing the Maresa together with the school districts and exploring the ideas of cost sharing, it's something that we've already started with the accounting software just recently, trying to purchase that. So tremendous idea. So I was extremely impressed.
Agree with Lowell. Those are good comments. It was different that he wrote the questions down, and you're right. I had the feeling in other interviews that the question just sort of got lost, and then they were, polishing what, falling back on, well, this is what I've done, and look at my credentials, and then the question didn't really get answered. But he wrote them down and attacked the question. I thought that was impressive, and I thought he did a pretty good job. The only thing I think that's his issue is that he doesn't have the experience as superintendent, but he certainly has the ability to take the bull by the horns. I've seen him do that. I know him from maps, and what he's done out at Cherry Creek, like Paula said, is things he's done out there have been amazing. I mean, we've done tours out there with the board to see what he's done, and it is amazing how his mind works. So that's I thought I did a pretty good interview in the process.
Like Paula, he wowed me. I think he's good at building relationships. I did go to Northern with DJ Paquette, the gentleman that he quoted, leader from feet and not from your seat. And so impressive that he is such a relationship builder. He greets the kids at the door every day. He goes into all the classrooms. What a very engaged principal that he is. Shows some tremendous leadership skills in my mind.
Well, the way I look at it is this guy's not going to stay local building principal. He's the kind of person that's going to be like the next state superintendent down the road. I mean, he's going places.
I agree. He will be
But
going
remember,
places.
he wants to stay in Marquette, so.
Yeah, but I know that's a good thing. We're going to
Okay,
keep it.
excellent comments. So I'm sorry, phone ringing, but board, I would like right now that if you're ready to, and remember, this isn't the final decision, but it gives you a sort of a to try and narrow it down in terms of who your top 2 or 3 might be collectively. And the best way that we found is to tier them, rank them. 1 is very good, and 2 is, not quite tier 1, but you're not sure on some things. And then tier 3 was you just don't see the fit right now, based on the profile, based on the points of pride, based on the interview, but you're happy. I think you're all happy with the candidates, and that is a good thing, and that is a positive, right? And that's a real tribute to you and Maresa and your region. But I'm going to ask if you're ready to score these people, and let's see where the numbers come in.
Go for it.
Okay, so this is the way this works. I'm going to start with our first candidate, Melanie Allen. I'm going to go down board members, and then we'll move to the next candidate after that. Okay, and this will give us a little bit of a snapshot. This is a hard decision. This is where the rubber hits the road, board. But a decision has to be made at some point in time. So Lowell, I'm going to start with you, and your thoughts on, or your score or rank for Melanie.
Am I going to be the first one out of the chute on this whole process?
Leaders
2.
and followers, Lowell.
2.
Okay. Barb,
2,
Shelley,
I gave her a 1.
I'm sorry, I went off. Shelley,
A 1?
okay, 1. Paula,
Your mute's on, Paula.
2. 2.
Jamie,
2.
Steve,
1,
and Julie.
1,
Okay, now remember, this is like golf, right? The low score is good to have a low score. Got 11 for Melanie, okay? So let's go to Jay Calbertus. Lowell,
2.
Barbara,
1,
Shelley,
1,
Paula,
1.
Amy,
1.
Steve,
3,
Ooh.
and Julie.
1,
Okay. $10 for Jay Calbertus. All right, Rachel Fewer, Lowell,
2.
Barbara,
2,
Shelley,
2,
Paula,
3.
Jamie,
2.
Steve,
2,
and Julie.
2,
$15 for that candidate. Okay, Johnny Payton, Lowell,
3.
Barbara,
3,
Shelley,
2,
Paula,
3.
Jamie,
3.
Steve,
3,
and Julie.
2,
$19. Dr. Gregory Neon, Lowell,
2.
Barbara,
1,
Shelley,
1,
Paula,
1.
Jamie,
3.
Steve,
1,
and Julie.
1,
$10. All right, last, Dr. Travis Smith, Lowell,
1.
Barbara,
2,
Shelley,
2,
Paula,
1.
Jamie,
1.
Steve,
2,
and Julie.
1,
Okay, that's 10. So here's just what this polling shows you, okay? You have 3 number 10s in Dr. Jay Calbertus, Dr. Gregory Neon, and Dr. Travis Smith. You have an 11 in Melanie Allen. And then the other 2 were 15 and 19 respectively. So you do, based on this polling and matrix, you have 3 tied at 10 and a 4th that was at 11. So you can go, the board can continue discussions on how many you might want to bring back. You have 3 that scored the lowest. You have a 4th that was 1 point behind based on the matrix. So I can definitely say based on this, the hard decision, I think 2 out of the 6, based on the scoring, I'll be making rough calls to them tomorrow. And that's what I have to do. But I think the discussion would be, are you satisfied with Group 10, Jay Burgas, Gregory Neon, and Travis Smith, and do you want to entertain a 4th, Melanie Allen, for a final interview? That,
You know, if I can throw my 2 cents in, I would interview the 4. When I look at Melanie, it's pretty split. I mean, there were 4 2s and 3 1s, and so we're kind of a split board with her. So I'd like to bring her back and ask her some more questions. Obviously, the fact that it's so split, I'm curious. I'd like to ask her some more questions. And Calbertus, I mean, we had 1 2s and 3s. I think he's a 10. I think we should bring him back. And the other 2 are 10s. I think we should bring him back. I mean, I have no problem adding. I have no problem adding Melanie into that mix because of that split. I'm just curious. I'd like to bring her back, ask her some deeper questions, and then see what the board thinks about her.
I agree with Paula.
yeah, and I just had a district last week that decided to bring 3 back, but they did vote on a 4th, and they had great foresight to do that because one of the 3 dropped out before the final round. So I think what I'm hearing is potentially bringing back 4 for a second round discussion.
I feel we should bring back 4. It'd be different if Melanie was a 12 or a 13 in the count. When you're dealing with from a 10 to 11, to me, you're just splitting hairs.
Okay. Okay. So any where you are right now, board, is if someone would like to entertain a motion and support it and have more discussion on those 4 candidates, that's up to you.
I would like to make that motion that we bring back 4 candidates: Melanie Allen, Dr. Calbertus, Dr. Nyan, and Dr. Smith.
I'll second that.
I'll third it.
I'll do a roll call vote. Shelley?
Aye.
Paula?
Aye.
Steve?
Aye.
Barb?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Lowell?
Aye.
And Julie's aye. Motion passes.
Wow, congratulations, 7-0. That'll be 4 good calls that I'll be able to make. Interview date. We did have some discussion at screening, some time back, and with the hopes that shelter in place might be lifted. When do you want to talk to these candidates? Do you want to do all 4 in one day, or want to do 2 and 2?
Mike, can you give us a little bit about the format? It wouldn't be as long of as an interview, correct, as this evening's?
That's correct. There'll be roughly 8 questions. I have been setting up 60 to 75 minutes, but it is more specific in terms of audience questions, but typically not as long, no.
How many questions?
Okay.
15 to 18, and I would be drafting those based on the audience input and getting those out. So I would say for preparation and posting and getting those questions vetted by the board to make sure they are the questions you want asked. I would say maybe next week sometime. in terms
And
of
at
your
that
second-
interview, are we allowed to be a little more specific with the specific individual with our questions, or do they all have to be the same
Yes.
questions?
Yes, you can be a little bit more specific.
Okay.
I would say don't load up on follow-up questions, but that's why I'll send the draft of questions to all of you so you can take a good hard look at it.
Can I just make one comment? This isn't about you, Jamie, because I really appreciate the fact that you made those phone calls. But what I'd like to say is what way we've done it in the past is that once we've decided on, like, you know, basically 2 people, we've put together a team that investigates the candidate so that we're not individually all calling. It's a team. Last time we had 2 teams. We had one team that went to Marquette to investigate, and we decided this at a board meeting. We had one team that went to Marquette to investigate, and then there were 3 of us, me included, Shelley included, that went to Alpena to investigate that candidate. So it was sort of a process we went through so that we were all together as a board, and districts or people weren't getting calls from us individually. Now, I don't know what the rest of the board feels that way, but I just wanted to say that's how we've done it, how we have done it in the past.
We talked about that earlier in the process, that we were going to entertain or look at that possibility depending on how many we had. Obviously, I think visitation would be a little tough in the current crisis, but maybe some direction. I'd be interested in doing some direction, you know, dividing up the.
Then are you entertaining? Are you entertaining the thought of taking the 4 to 2 and then do the board teams doing visits?
That was kind of what I was thinking too. That's kind of the procedure we've followed in the past. And
How do we do that?
There has to be phone calls made, like Jamie did. There has to be phone calls to, you know, the board, and there has to be phone calls to or talking to people in the district, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I thought of that, and I you know, under the circumstances of how are we gonna get a team to go visit anywhere? We can't do that right now. So anyway, so.
No, we do need.
You want to watch me?
Yeah.
I mean, by that time, we might have a little more freedom from this, the governor.
Yeah.
Let us pray.
Well, by that time, what do you, are you talking about going to visit are we getting this down? Are we still whittling it down to like 2 candidates or what? I mean, we're stuck till the 15th or something at this point, so.
Well, I think that's what Paul is suggesting, but let's back up a minute here because Mike is asking when we want to do these next round of interviews with the 4 candidates that we currently have. So let's do that step first if we can.
Thank you.
Well, what's Mike's schedule?
Well, I'm interviewing Saturday. I'm working with the district tomorrow. Next week is good.
Next week.
You pick the date.
If we're gonna do all 4 of them at one time, let's do it on Thursday, the 30th. How does that fit?
Works for me.
The 30th?
Hold on, the 30th tomorrow, you guys.
Oh, hey, I'm looking at the wrong calendar, ain't I?
You're talking the 7th of May.
Yes, 7th of May.
That
works for me. Does that give you time, Mike, to do the questions?
Yes. Are you taking all 4 of them in one night?
That's what it sounded like. Is that, what time would we start? We don't want to go too late, do we?
No.
If you could commit to 3 o'clock again, that would be great.
Lowell, are you working and is that possible? I don't know.
That should work with me. I'd prefer it all in one night. I think that would be,
And you could start at like 3?
yeah. no
Okay.
problem.
I think I can on that day too. Let me check.
Board meeting would start at 3. First interview would be 3:15.
What day is that of the week?
Thursday.
Thursday.
Okay, I can as well.
Mike, should the interviews just be an hour this time instead of an hour and a half?
Yeah, we'll knock down the questions to 15 to 18.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. And another idea that I had a district do is they had Zoom meetings with staff for the final candidate. So they set up a Zoom that the staff got spend an hour with each of the candidates, and then the staff provided a summary feedback to the board. I don't know if that's something that, but there, that's to try and take the place of not being able to physically go to a place.
Well, I sure was thinking that we need some staff input here, but I guess we got their input on the questions. I don't know. What do you think, board?
That's true. We do have input on the questions for sure.
I think we get that input once we've whittled it down.
Yeah, I agree.
Input to help with the decision. I think we whittle it down to 2 people.
Okay, so it sounds like we might have three rounds then, right? That's a possibility.
Well, I don't know whether that
Really?
I just think if we whittle it down to 2 people and then we base the decision upon virtual site visits or whatever, then we can just make the decision. The board can then make the decision.
Yeah, that's what we did. We've done that in the past.
Right. It's
All
like
right.
that, whittled it
No
down
problem.
to 2 people, but that's the piece we don't have yet. We need to get that community input, staff input.
Okay. All right. I will be calling these all 6. So, and setting it up for May 7th, beginning at 3:15, be about an hour interview each. I won't do 15 minutes in between. I'll do 10 this time. How's that?
Okay.
Okay, in the previous conversations, Mike, you were talking about us being able to ask questions, specific questions to the candidates, and then I just got the idea that you are not agreeing with that now.
Well, I think that was asked. I will set up a template. You want to try and have it be as level as possible, but the board will have input into those questions. So my hope would be the template, and if you can see questions that you'd like to add, that we would hopefully ask the question.
Well, each individual may have different questions to ask individuals based on who they are and what they have said. In the past in their other interview.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's the board's choice if you wanted to ask different questions. It definitely can be done.
Could we have a set of questions, and then if we had additional things we wanted to ask on top of that, we would have the freedom to do that with each candidate?
As long as I can see them to make sure they're legal and appropriate.
Okay, I like that idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're right, Jamie. I think, this is our superintendent. I mean, this is
Yep.
our biggest decision that we make. And to individualize the questions at this point, just to make sure in our own minds and hearts that this is the right person, I'm in total support of that.
Okay.
I don't have a problem with that. The only thing is I don't want, how do I say that? One of us goes off too deep. I think we got to limit it to say 5 or 6 general questions. And then if individual board members want to ask a question, is what I'm looking at. There's 7 of us, and that way, if each person has a question, then we're not gonna be dragged it out and we can stay within a time constraint.
Oh, yeah, I didn't expect it to be one of those things where one person would be firing 5 or 6 more questions. I don't see that. I see maybe 1 or 2 questions, that's all.
And I think if we filter them through Mike and we all know what they are, I'm comfortable with that.
So maybe it's even seeing what Mike comes up with for questions, because he might already ask the questions that we're interested in for each individual. So maybe we need to see what Mike comes up with first, and then we can put our input in.
Okay.
And I'm assuming Monica is still on here to schedule this meeting on May 7th. I'm
Yeah, I
hoping.
see her.
I am. I'm here. I'm taking notes furiously in the background.
Yeah, I'll send you a draft template schedule. Once I talk with Candy.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there any other,
Well,
pardon?
congratulations, board.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
Is there any other business to come before the board this evening? Any board member comments?
No.
Then I shall
I'd like
adjourn.
to
the meeting. Oops, go ahead,
I
Shelley.
want to thank Mike. I want to thank Mike for taking us through this process tonight. That was very helpful. And Julie, for your leadership. You've done a fine job.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Hmm.
And
I
yes,
agree
I
with
would echo
that.
thanking. I would thank Mike as well, but I also want y'all to thank your families for putting up with us in our homes doing this, because I think it's amazing that they are as well. So thank you all.
Julie, I have to go back in my history way deep. When we lived in Forest Lake and the 2 ladies came every summer to do vacation Bible school. If you did an excellent job that day, you went home with a star right on your forehead. So I'm sorry I don't have a star, but you did an excellent job, lady.
Thanks,
Nice
Steve. Coming from you, that means a lot too. Thank you. All right, I will adjourn the
Okay.
meeting. Have a good night, everybody.
You
Good night.
too.
You too.
Good night.